When you get in that driveway, take 15 minutes, block off what's happened during the day so you can give your best self possible for whatever happens when you open up that door. What is up, everybody? It's Ed Galdrino of the Dad Central Show and Dad Central, sitting beside, well, digitally sitting beside the guy who likes my background. What's up?
Yeah, Drew Solon of Dad Central and the Dad Central Show. Your background, I'm not sure what it is. There's just something really cool about it, and you look like you're in like some sort of futuristic like space pod, I'd say. But it makes you look also very, what's the word? Important. Like you're the captain of the ship. So.
Okay. Well, I'm the co-captain of this ship.
Well, doing a good job, co-captain.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you, co-captain. We are the co-captains of the Dad Central Show, which is sponsored by Dove Men+Care. Dove Men+Care believes that care is the best of a man because when men care for themselves and others, there is a positive impact. So today, myself and Drew, we're going to talk about a really lifelong fatherhood topic, self-care. Drew, when I talk about fatherhood and self-care, what comes up in your mind?
That's a good question. What does come up? I think that this is somewhat new as far as fathers being like, what? Self-care? I think if you go back 20, 30 years, dads would be like, what is that? What the heck are you talking about? So I think this is a recognition that maybe going through the pandemic, maybe just going through, all the world's gone through, to recognize, if we're not caring for ourselves, then it ultimately leads to breakdown, leads to unhealthiness, it leads to burnout, and it leads to sometimes broken relationships, broken families, and the loss of actually a father's influence on their family or in their life. So I think of self-care, I think it's these two potentially opposing perspectives, and recognizing there's value in understanding self-care, and recognizing that everyone's self-care is going to be different. Those are my thoughts. How about you?
Yeah, well, a number of things. Self and then care. Self, then care, breaking it down, managing yourself, and the care not only has impact on yourself as a dad, father, male caregiver, and others. And also it's part of Dove Men+Care. Care, they believe that care is the best of a man because when men care for themselves and others, there's a positive impact. So this is like foundational for not only ourselves as we are champions for dads, fathers, and male caregivers, but also for the Dove Men+Care brand. So I think that's important. And I think that this also has become a heightened conversation topic during the pandemic and post-pandemic. One of the words you hear more, I'd say probably one of the top 10 words you hear, and probably still, whether it's with this subject or others, is that self-care. You hear that all the time, but we want to really drill in regards to fathers, dads, male caregivers in regards to that. So we're going to have a unique way of presenting self-care today. We got something really, well, we always have great conversation, but we have a great way. But what we're going to do is we're going to take each letter in self-care and align it to a characteristic and relate it to fatherhood. So our first letter is S, solitude. Drew, kick it off.
Yeah, well, the idea of solitude could be misconstrued. So I think for me, when I thought of the idea of self-care and solitude, sometimes we need time for ourselves, even if it's just 5 minutes. I remember a few years ago, he's been a guest on our podcast, actually, JT Tsui. He's a former roommate of mine. We played football together, and he was a father. At this time when we were talking, and I was expressing how stressed I was feeling, and he responded, Drew, even if you just take 5 minutes at the start of the day, here's what I found to work for me. Even if you find 5 minutes for yourself, he's like, that's really important. And I always remember that conversation. I thought, yeah, 5 minutes is doable. And what I started doing was just simply stepping out of the house and walking to the back of the yard. We have a nice deep lot, and just taking a few moments to hang out. And I find even that process of creating space for myself, finding some solitude, was helpful for me. And so every person is going to be a little bit different, but the ability to set a time and space for yourself without the demands, the distractions, the constant noise that comes with family life is very can be very healing and can be very re-energizing, since we need to manage our energy. So whatever that looks like, I think there's value in starting with time and space for yourself through solitude.
Yeah, I 100% agree on that, and especially when it comes to the role of fatherhood, because so many fathers, they're doing, they're doing. What are they doing to be? A number of years ago, and I think I've brought this up in another conversation. I was helping a young father in San Francisco. I wasn't there. We were doing it virtually, by the way. And he said that he would get home from work and he would go right into the house, and the house was like mayhem. And I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I made this suggestion. I said, when you get into the driveway, take 15 minutes just to relax, block out what's happened during the day, because he had a pretty intensive job. Well, I think he ran his own mortgage company, mortgage broker company, and that's pretty high tense, etc. I said, when you get in that driveway, take 15 minutes, block off what's happened during the day so you can give your best self possible for whatever happens when you open up that door. Whether it's yelling or screaming, whether it's one of your kids coming up and jumping and hugging you. So you set yourself up for success as much as possible. And doing that solitude and reflection can mean a lot. And whether if 15 minutes is too much, yeah, start with 5, but just do something to just have your own time, you know? So that's what I
Yeah,
think.
I think the key that you talked about is we're doing, doing. And when you are doing for everyone else, you're not taking the time that you might need. It's the old adage, in the event of emergency and the oxygen mask comes down, you put your oxygen mask on first. So ultimately, you don't want to get to the crisis point. So taking bits and pieces of solitude can help prevent that crisis piece.
100%. 100%. Let's go to the next letter, E, excitement.
So again, from my perspective, if there are things in your life that you don't get excited about, it's going to be pretty hard. And so I think there's an important element of what is in your life, or what can you add to your life that gives you or provides some form of excitement at the doing it. That might be date night with your significant other, and it's once a month or once every 2 weeks, whatever it is. That might be the opportunity, and you try new things. Does that provide you excitement? Is it something more for just yourself? So for me, I actually get excited about going to the gym and having a great workout. Whatever it is, that if you don't have something that creates any form of excitement in your life, then I feel like you're missing out, and you're missing a key part of caring for yourself, because you really have to evaluate, what am I doing then if I'm not getting excited about it? That's just my perspective.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And one of the things I love doing when I sit down with a father or man is I always, if I get to it, I ask the question, what's a goal, dream, and desire that you haven't reached that you've wanted to reach? You know? And many a time the person receiving that, there's dead air and silence for a few moments. And and just piggybacking what you said, Drew, that if you don't have the excitement, it's sort of like shooting a bow and arrow up in the air and expecting it to hit something. You're not focused on something. You need to bring that. What are you fighting for? What is the joy? And I think too, piggybacking on that, yes, it should be excitement, but it should be excitement that benefits you and others. I really feel that excitement, it definitely it impacts you, but if it's good excitement, especially if you're a dad, it's gonna maybe help your family, help your partner. It's you're excited, and and when they see you doing something that you're excited about, as long as it's well intentioned, that can flow on to other members of your family, right? So the
Mhm.
excitement, yeah, and again, as we always say, when you're a dad, you're always being watched, right? So if your kids and family see you're not really happy or not really say something, that could reflect on them. Not only then,
Mhm.
but down the road as they grow up and be older. So there's the excitement. Anything you wanted to add on that? Because I see that you may want to add to that.
I think no, I don't have to add anything to it. I think what you said is spot on. So
Okay.
it's
All
great.
right. Let's do L for laughter.
If you are old enough to remember Reader's Digest, they all had a segment, "Laughter is the best medicine." And, it's a bunch of jokes on the page, and there's a lot of truth. And also, if you are old enough to remember the movie Patch Adams, Patch Adams was that doctor who, brought silliness and laughter into his pediatric care. And, a movie was made about it because of the success and impact of bringing joy, through creating laughter in the children. And so I remember, and I wrote an email or blog post about this a few years ago. Of how serious and how heavy life can feel sometimes as a dad, and how with my kids and their age, learning to be silly, learning to tell jokes, really pulled me out of how serious and heavy life felt, stressful, demanding, expectations. How do you juggle it all? And so for me, if there is laughter, it I think, and I don't have the science with me, but I know that there's also a physiological response that comes along with it. So it's not just good for your mind and your emotions, it's good for your actual physical body. So finding ways to inject laughter into our lives is, to me, another great way to build self-care. And this is coming from a recovering, perfectionist slash too serious type of person. Still, sometimes I got to, remember, don't take myself so seriously. So laughter for me is a big part of that idea of self-care.
Yeah, I'll just add on here. I want to ask everyone who's either listening or watching this, especially if you're a dad, when was the last time you laughed? And also another question, when was the last time you laughed with your children or kids? When was the last time? And if you have to think about that, I have a concern and I want to say insert laughter into your relationship with your family. Because again, it's a ripple effect. Like everything we're talking here is a ripple effect because your family, your kids and your family are watching. So I think the laughter thing, one person told me that, hey, if you're not laughing at yourself, someone else is probably laughing at you. So why don't you start with a laughter at yourself first? And it's a and it's a way of fun too. And the world needs, especially these days, dads, the world needs more laughter and more fun. So why don't you be the catalyst of it with yourself and your family? So there's the laughter. Let's go to fun, fitness, and friends. Now I know the fitness is a Drew thing, so I'm gonna let him handle this.
Yeah, well, laughter and into fun, I think, is a nice complement. But then also the idea of fitness or health, along with friends, I think are all add a tremendous amount of value. And sometimes all three of those things can be combined. In my case, the Spartan race. where you've got a whole, fitness culture. You've got some fun. You're challenging yourself, and of course, there's the fitness piece because physically you need to be capable. So, the idea that any one of these three can really add to your sense of well-being. And to me, if again, similar to that idea of excitement, if there isn't anything that you look forward to that's fun, if there isn't, and we've done shows about health, our health as our wealth, and of course the idea and importance of connectedness and social connections, and of course, having gone through the pandemic, the negative impacts of isolation. All three of these, or any one of these three, to me, give fathers something back, right? Because we are giving out, we're pouring out, we're providing, we're doing, we're achieving, we're working hard. And so these, to me, are ways we can refill our tanks in ways that are valuable and mean a lot to us.
Yeah, the fun, fitness, and friends. I love that. Of course, there should be fun. The fitness thing too. It incorporates one of the things we believe here at Dad Central about the importance of play. It's really, really having fun and the fitness and friends. Just talk about the fun and fitness, having that play incorporated in the development of the father child or children relationship is really good. And the exercise point, hey, for a lot of the children these days, they're not getting enough exercise time in school. So, hey, why not incorporate it at home? Why don't you?
100%.
Yeah, there's a even though it's like not intense fitness, there's a gentleman who lives around the corner with me from me, and every evening after he finishes work, he goes on a walk with his his partner and his daughter. Not intense fitness, but they're having a walk and they're getting some exercise, and I'm sure they're having great conversation. It's and just that quality time incorporated in the fitness end. And then the friends piece, uh your kids are watching, and I grew up and I still have that. When I grew up, my dad's closest friends, I regarded them as uncles and aunts even though they were not blood relatives, and I saw the relationships that he continues to have with his friends. Like some of them, like one of his best friend he's known for over 70 years. I saw that relationship, and it's a great molding for me, and then also family, of the importance of the friendships. Because again, your kids are watching, and if they see that those tight bonds that you have, which will lead in the next letter C, connections, but they see that that friendship is important, especially other men that you're having friendships with.
Mhm.
Just shows the importance, the role of fatherhood and family and relationships. So just wanted to add that on there. All right.
Yeah, those are great points.
Yeah, and now this is one of Drew's favorite things, connections. So I'll let him go on this.
Yeah, well, thanks for the opportunity to start. For the next three, you get to start, and then I get to come in. So, connections to me is the core of strong relationships, and as a dad, and everyone's fatherhood situation is slightly different, but your partner, your wife, the kid's mother, if you're in relationship with her, is the most important and crucial connection. And so that to me takes, primary stage when I think of connections. If you are experiencing a disconnect in your, intimate partner relationship, that is going to significantly impact your own well-being because that has so much value for you in terms of having relational needs met, as well as working collaboratively as parents, and the connection and the security that your children get from observing the power and value of that connected relationship. So to me, I know it's connections and it can go broader, but I think it really starts at the most important connections. And of course, if you are in a situation where you're not in relationship with your children's mother, the other people who are closest to you, they say you are the sum of the five people that you're closest to. And so who are, or in the example of Brian Ward, and who's the host of the Data podcast, he has his advisory board. Do you have those people who you are, as you were just talking about, who you are closest to, who spend the most amount of time with, who you feel at ease and at peace and trusted, that you don't have to put on airs, you don't have to be a certain way, you just show up the way you are and they fully accept you, and you are so I think those to me is where I'm coming from when it comes to connections, primarily with your children's mother. If you're in relationship, is that connection strong and healthy? And then are the people who are closest to you, are you well connected to them?
Like that. I'm going to go down deeper on this connection bit. I look at it as a three-prong thing. Uh, Dad, what's your connection with yourself?
Mhm.
What is your connection with yourself? Is what you do aligned with who you are? Do you have that alignment? Right? Because it all starts with you, Dad. It all starts with you. And then the next say is, what is your connection with your family? What is your connection with your family? Do you have that strong connection? First you, then your family. Do you have that base connection with your family? And of course, there's going to be moments where you're not aligned. Hey, we're all human beings, 100%. But do you have that connection with your family? Do they align with you? Do you align with them? And then the final part of the connection piece, what is your connection with other men? I always put it out there, especially when I chat with dads, fathers, and men's. I always ask this question: if you have an emergency at 3 o'clock in the morning, do you have someone you can call? And what are they going to say? Are they going to say, "What are you calling me for?" Or are they going to say, where do you need me? Are they going to say that? Do you have, oh, and I was in a conversation the other day and there was a really good term and I can't remember it, but I'm sure I won't come up at another time. But do you have that iron sharpener? It's not the term I wanted to use, but do you have that iron sharpener it connection wise in other men? Brian Ward, as we talk about, has that board of directors, which I think is an incredible concept. And even if you can start with one board of director, you don't have to have the 4 or 5, which Brian has, but starting off with that one, do you have that ride or die who will accept you in good times and when things aren't so good, especially when things aren't good? Do you have that connector? So since Drew has asked me to do the next three,
Can I
Drew has something
can
he
I
wants
add?
to add. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to add a personal story to that part. When I think about what I experienced with the high conflict separation and really awful experience that I had starting in March 2021, there were a handful of friends who have were with me through that entire situation. And no matter when I needed them, I'd pick up the phone and I'd call. And I could call different ones for different reasons, but either way, I could call them and they were there. And I can say without a doubt, if I did not have those connections, I don't know where I'd be today. So I can say that the more that we have these people or build these close connections into our life before the crisis or the chaos comes, then we're much more likely to weather the storms, because the reality is storms are coming. It's just, are you ready and prepared for them? So in caring for yourself and making sure you can make it through those things, connections are like your lifeline when they come.
Yeah, I'll add to that. Storms don't make an appointment. So so you want to make sure that you have those connections. And if you have those connections, I'm going to go a little bit further on this. Tell them how much you appreciate them. Not only tell them, but if you can, show them how much you appreciate them. Say, I
What a
really
perfect
value.
segue, Ed, to the next one.
there we go. So yeah. So just make sure you do that. Don't be a one-way connector. Be a two-way connector. Right? Two-way connector. That is really important, because if you're always just doing it, I need this, I need this, I need this. After a while, that person say, man, every time they're calling me, they just want. Ask what you can do if you connect with someone, whether it's your partner, your family, another man or men, what can you do to help with them? They'll appreciate that. They may not say anything right now, but they'll appreciate you just saying, hey, I'm here for you also. It's a two-way street. All right, appreciation. Always good when we talk about fatherhood and appreciation. My question first to fathers, do you feel appreciated? Right from the core, do you yourself feel appreciated? Again, it all starts with you. Because if you're not feeling appreciated to yourself, uh, family's going to notice, partner's going to notice. If you're working out there, people are going to notice. What are you working? Again, getting back to what I said at the beginning, we're always doing, 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 doing. And again, I always refer periodically to our great course, Super Dad, Super Kids. First chapter in that course is recognizing that you're a super dad. Do you appreciate? And if you're not getting appreciated, what ways do you need appreciation? And voice them. Tell people this is the way, like, of course, the book, The Five Love Languages. Tell people, because people are not mind readers. Sorry to tell you, folks. You got to tell them. Now, if you're in a relationship a long time with your kids and your family, they know. But if there's something missing when it comes to the appreciation part, tell people what you need. It builds from the connection piece. If you're connected with someone, if you're connected with your partner, if you're connected with your family, you're connected with other men, if they don't know what you need, hey, appreciate them and say, I need this to be appreciated. Drew.
Thanks, Ed. Great points. And I'll add briefly to when you mentioned the five love languages, words of affirmation. That for me was a big one of my top two or three. And so, to Ed's point, recognizing what your love language is and being able to communicate that in healthy ways with those who are significant in your life to be able to receive that is definitely crucial. But the other way that I'm looking at this appreciation is, what do you have in your life that you have appreciation for? Essentially, gratitude, and making sure that you are consistently highlighting or being aware of where you can express or feel gratitude or feel appreciation for what you do have. One of the challenges I've experienced throughout my life is sometimes getting into the comparison trap and looking what everyone else has in this age of social media, where everyone's got their perfect Instagram worthy images, and look at my trips and all these filters. It's so easy to get caught up in that and miss all that's great that's right in front of you in your life. So the ability to appreciate what you do have, the opportunities that are in front of you, the great things that just being, for us, we live in Canada, in a country that I think has so many blessings. Many people might argue and they'll complain about, but here's what I'm not looking at those things, because as in coaching, there's a statement as what you focus on grows, or where your focus goes, energy flows. At the end of the day, if I'm focusing on the things that I feel grateful, I feel blessed, that I'm so glad they're in my life, what's going to happen to my mindset? What's going to happen to my energy? What's going to happen to the way that I view problems or challenges? If I look for what's good, I'll probably do much better than if I'm not. So for me, the appreciation is, what can you express your appreciation for and have gratitude for that's existing in your life?
Yeah,
All
great
right, next
points.
one.
No, I got, well, just want to add on something quick,
Sorry.
where two quick things. Um, Someone said to me a long time ago, where the mind goes, the person follows.
Mhm.
And I also share with people, don't worry about what you don't have, because what you have is good enough. Right? Because I'm a firm believer, we were born to win, we weren't born to lose.
Mhm.
So going on to the next, R, reflection. Do we take time to reflect? And you've got to be careful. Don't get in the weeds on reflection. But it's good once in a while to sort of reflect on where you have been, where you are, where you're going. Don't beat yourself up, but it's good to take a pause once in a while, put the brakes on, like I did last night. It was a beautiful evening last night, and I just sat on my veranda and just enjoyed the evening and reflection and saying, "Hmm," sort of like doing a little bit of a balance sheet on my journey at this time. So again, now in order to do reflection, you've got to invest time to do it, and you've got to commit to doing it. So reflection doesn't happen without intention, investment. You have to have those intention to do it and the investing of time to do it to get good outcomes to do it. Drew?
Yeah, very well said. The statement goes, experience isn't the best teacher. Evaluated experience is the best teacher. And so that importance of taking time to reflect so that you can evaluate really goes with our fatherhood focus this month of personal growth. You can't grow if you don't know where you've been and what's contributed to why you got there. And then figuring out how you're going to move forward. So, in there's another John Maxwell statement to you must know yourself to grow yourself. And one of the most powerful ways to know yourself is to actually take time to reflect. So to me, this is a really important element to build self awareness, to build even a focus on gratitude, to build an understanding of your children or your partner, to build a connection with yourself, which you talked about as a crucial one. And when you reflect, you now then get the raw materials, the building blocks of what you can do moving forward. You have the building blocks of how you want to align yourself moving forward. And so to me, this is a crucial piece of the self-care process of reflection. The other thing is I've read, many business books, and this business book was sharing the story of Truett Cathy. He's the founder of Chick-fil-A. And he on a regular basis, pretty much every quarter, has reflection. So I think, don't quote me on this, but every week he has a set time of almost like an hour. Every month he's got that building time even more. Every quarter he's got a full day, I believe, set aside, and then every year he's got a almost a week. And so that's a crucial piece of um, any process to grow, is you have to reflect and evaluate so that you can move forward.
And I love what you shared there and what that gentleman does. It's intentional. It's intentional,
100%
right?
intentional.
Now, and I'm pretty sure that nothing, unless it's an absolute emergency, prevents that from happening at the time he makes that happen. So he's really, really,
Yeah.
because
Well, John Maxwell,
go ahead.
John Maxwell also makes this a daily thing. So at the end of his day, he reflects on his day. Did I achieve what I wanted? If not, why not? And then what's my plan for tomorrow? And that's a daily discipline.
There you go. Persistent and consistent, big time. And let's finish off with the E, which is foundational, emotional well being, which I think ties into everything that we're doing here. Are we taking time to measure our emotional well being? Dads, are you taking time? And if your emotional well being isn't right, ask for help. Ask for help. I'm a strong believer now that the best way for many of us to move forward, dads, male caregivers, fathers, etc., is ask questions. If something isn't all right, well, I'll use this analogy. What happens if you don't get a tune-up after lots of miles on your car? It could go crazy. So do that oil, lube, and filter to check out your emotions. And if they're good, fantastic. If they aren't, what do you need to do, whether it's in yourself or asking for help, to have that emotional well-being be the best it can for you, your partner, if you have one, and your families and those who you deal with? Drew?
Yeah, for me, this one is vital because how men have been socialized to stuff and deny emotion. It's like all we are is logical, and we can't. The reality is we all have emotions. Like we come out of the womb as human beings, we have both logic and emotion, and you can't if you deny one, it creates an expense of the other, because the reality is there's a huge problem in men: suicide, right? The depression, all these issues. From my perspective, they're rooted in the denial and a refusal to actually allow time and space for real emotion. We all experience emotions. And when we don't allow them, or we don't accept or even acknowledge the fact that we do have emotion, we are actually denying a part of ourselves. And so and a part of that socialization or culturalization is that, men don't cry, it's weak, you're this, you're that, which is all garbage. The reality is that when you feel and express those emotions in healthy ways, that energy, that's essentially that emotion, is dissipated and you're free to move forward. And that's why empathy as a dad, in terms of a tool with your children, is so important, because it allows those emotions in your child to be expressed and accepted without fear of judgment or being squashed or denied. So for me, and I get pretty passionate about this one, you know, I believe wholeheartedly that the more that we allow time and space for our own emotions, reflection can be a huge catalyst for helping that come out. And we learn to process and heal, because many of us have our own father wounds, our own relational wounds, our own career like we've got wounds. But when you take the time to allow your emotions to process and begin healing from them by acknowledging and accepting them, you become healthier, you become better, and you become more resilient. Truthfully, you want to be mentally tough. Well, process your emotions, because you're going to be able to handle a lot more than the person who doesn't. Because eventually, like that car that hasn't had that oil, lube, and filter, it's going to break down. Whereas the car that has had the consistent maintenance, guess what? That thing's running a lifetime, baby. You take care
Uh,
of it, it's
300
going to outlive any other vehicle.
half a million kilometers and going strong, right?
That's right.
All right. Well, that's fantastic. So let's just go over each one of the letters. S for solitude, E for excitement, L for laughter, F, fun, fitness, and friends, C, connections, A, appreciation, R, reflection, and E, emotional well being. Drew, anything you want to add before we shut it down?
The only thing I'll add is that it is not selfish to care for yourself. In fact, it's the most selfless thing you can do, because all the people that are depending on you as a father need you to be at your best. And you're also setting an amazing example for your family that says, I'm worth investing in. And then hopefully your children and your spouse will catch that and say, hey, I'm worth investing in too. I need time for myself. I need these things for myself. And we create a healthier family as a result.
Excellent. I'll just add on to that. When you're investing your emotions in a good way, it's like investing in the stock market. The best investment in the stock market grows over a period of time. It's a long-term thing. It's not, if you're going into the stock market to make a quick money, a lot of times it don't work out and it doesn't end up the best. But if you're in for the long-term investment, that is what's really key. So as always, we'd like to say the Dad Central Show is sponsored by Dove Men+Care. Dove Men+Care believes that care is the best of a man, because when men care for themselves and others, there's a positive impact. As always, if you want to find out more, actually, if you want to contact us, podcast at dadcentral.ca, suggestions, questions, guest suggestions. Hey, maybe you're a dad and you may want to come on the show. Hey, send it to us. And also give us reviews, dadcentral.ca /podcast, where you can listen. Also, if you're really up to it, give us favorable reviews on the Apple Podcast platform. And also, you can watch replays too. And finally, website for a lot of free resources on parenting and dadhood. dadcentral.ca. So as always, want to say thank you for giving the most important thing you have in your life, your time, for us. Looking forward to seeing you on future conversations. And remember, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace, and we'll chat with you soon. Be well.